Okay, in this exercise, we are going to initialize this. We're going to exactly three of them, and then we're going to create a simple volume, and then we're going to create a storage pool. We already talked about this. We did the theoretical part. We went over that. So let's go ahead and start working with this. Let's go to step number one. All right, so we got to go to server C. Right now we are in server A, so let's go to server C. Press Control Alt Delete so we can log in. Let's fix our environment here. Give us enough real estate so we can work with as much of a window as we can. So let's log in. We gotta log in as the administrator. Click on this. Now we're gonna type PA $$ W0RD and press enter. PA $$ W0RD and press enter. Server manager starts. So now that we're in server manager, let's go to step number two. So we're gonna go to file and storage services. Then we're gonna click disks. As you can see, we have three disks. One of them is online and the other two are offline. 4 disks. I mean to say 3 of them are offline and one is online. 3 offline, 1 online. We're going to right click the offline disk number 1. And we're going to bring it online. We have a warning that says in this disk, if this disk is already online on another server, bringing the disk online on this server can cause data loss. Since we know that's not online at any other server, we're gonna say yes. And now it's saying online now rather than offline. Now we're gonna click again the same disk that we just brought online, and we're going to select from the drop down initialize. And we get another warning that says performing this operation erases all data on the disk and initializes it as a GPT disk. Back up any data that you want to keep before initializing the disk. So do you want to continue? Just click yes. Now the disk has been formatted with a GPT format rather than master boot record. As you know, GPTs can support bigger amount of data. So now that we have done this, let's go to tools and let's go to computer management. Now you know that we could have gone a different route and taken us to the same destination, but we can do it from server manager. I'm gonna go to the left pane and click disk management. And we can see we have the four disks 0, 1, 2, and 3. And again, 2 of them are online, 2 of them are offline. So now we're going to right click this number 2, which currently is offline. We're going to right click and put it online. We could have done it from Server Manager, but we can't do Computer Manager to do this. Now we're going to right click the same disk, and then we're going to initialize it. It's disk 2 and initialize the disk. Now that we we selected initialize the disk, let's make a GPT. Click OK. And then let's do the same for disk 3. Take it online. And then we're going to right click and we're going to initialize it. GPT. Okay, so we do have all of the disks currently are online. All are GPT except for one of them, which is MBR, Master Boot Record. So let's go to the next step. Let's go to Server Manager, back to Server Manager. In the File and Storage Services, I'm going to click Volumes. Now let's go ahead and click on Task and select New Volume. The wizard appears. The Before You Begin page appears. Then click Next. You select the server and disk. Page appears. And we're gonna select this one. So we do select the disk, in this case disk 1, and click Next. In the specify the size of the volume, let's make it 10 gigabytes and click Next. On the assign to a drive letter or folder page, we're going to just leave it as it is. On the select the file system settings, we're just going to accept the default and click Next. We're going to click Next on the Confirm Selections page, and we're going to click Create. Now we're going to close, and as you can see, we have a new volume here. Now let's go back to the Computer Management Console. Now the volume we created is going to appear as disk 1 here. Now on this 2, we're going to go to I'm going to right click on the unallocated space, and from the context menu, we're going to select New Simple Volume. We get a wizard. We're going to click Next. And here we're going to select 10,000. Notice that the difference here is that in this interface, it doesn't talk about gigabytes, it talks about megabytes. So in order to make it 10 gigabytes, you gotta make it 10,000 megabytes. 10,000 by 1 and 4 zeros. I'm gonna click next. We're gonna leave it as F, so we're gonna click next. I'm gonna click next on the format partition screen. I'm gonna leave it as NTFS. And we're gonna do a quick format. Now we're gonna click finish. And now we have formatted the unallocated space. And it's now a healthy primary partition in that disk. Now we're going to create another volume, a simple one, on disk 3. And we're going to make it letter G. Let's create a 10 gigabyte simple volume on disk 3 with, and we're gonna call it letter G. Because this is a part of your homework, I'm not gonna do it with PowerShell as says here because that's part of the question. So I'm gonna do it as we did the other two. New simple volume. Click next. We're gonna make it 10,000. That's 4 zeros. Megabyte. That's 10 gigabytes. Click next, and we're gonna make it letter G. Click next, and everything here NTFS quick format. You're gonna just accept and click finish. Okay, this part of the lab, we're gonna create a storage pool. So let's go to storage pools, tile, just click new storage pool. The wizard appears, click next. We're gonna call it pool 1. You can give it a description if you want to. And we're gonna click next. In the select the physical disk for the storage pool, we're gonna select disk 1 and disk 2. And then we're gonna click next. And then we're gonna click create. And we're gonna close. We're gonna select pool 1. We're gonna create a virtual disk, so let's go to the virtual disk tile. We're gonna create a new virtual disk. Before you begin, just click next. In the select the storage pool, we're going to create the virtual disk out of select pool one. And this virtual disk, we're going to call it data one. And we're going to click next. Here we're going to select parity. But if we read, it says this storage layout requires at least 3 disks to protect you from a single disk failure, and at least 7 disks to protect you from at least 2 disk failures. It goes without saying that we're not going to be able to create a parity layout here. So let's select mirror and click next. I'm gonna leave it as fixed, which means the volume uses a space from a storage pool equal to the volume size. So we're gonna click next. And on the specify the size of the virtual disk, select the maximum, click next, and then click create. And close. Now notice that the wizard to create a volume appears, but I'm just going to close it and then go back to do it the other way. The instructions do not call for this. Now the virtual disk appears here in the storage pool. So let's right click on it and we're going to click new. We're going to click on new volume. As you noticed, that has started to begin with, because you create a virtual disk, then you have to create a volume, just like we did with a regular physical disk in the computer. At the same time, if you create a virtual disk, you have to create a volume in it. So let's click next. So we're going to create a volume in this 4. We're going to click next. And we're going to select all of the available capacity. So that's going to be the same as the top. So click next. And the letter we're going to select is going to be J. Click next. Click next and create. And close. And that's the end of the lab. So we created several, we initialized and then allocated part of the sizes of the drives as volumes, and then we created a couple of pools. We did it with different methods through server manager, and also we did use computer management console. So either way you can do it. You just gotta make sure you see the difference between both consoles. One of them only creates GPTs, and the other one you can actually uh, tell it to create an MBR if you want. And then the other one, it talks in terms of megabytes, and the other one talks in terms of gigabytes. And that is it.